I'd like to know why, even, I assume, from the moment of conception, a fetus can be considered a child with the same moral weight as a living human being of adult age.
I think if we do not draw the line at humanity, the fact that the fetus in the womb is a human, I think that collapses the foundation we have for arguing against things like genocide, racism, murder, and other contexts.
A fetus in the first trimester doesn't have any rights enshrined in the Constitution.
Does a fetus in the third trimester or 1 day before birth have any rights?
According to the Constitution, no.
Is there something outside of government that should govern the way that we act?
Where are we, young lady?
We are at the University of Alabama.
Roll Tide! That's what I'm talking about. Awesome. And we're going to talk about abortion. Abortion should be legal in the first trimester. Move. Abortion should be legal in the second trimester. Move. Abortion should be legal in the third trimester. Move. Abortion should be legal up to the last day. Move. Abortion should be legal up to the first day of birth. In other words, when at day one, after the mother gives birth, the parents have 1 day to decide. Move. You laugh, but I have some people who did not move to that. That's really true. You can watch the videos. The Dartmouth people didn't move to that. Okay, so abortion should be legal in the first trimester. That's the original claim. Move. Okay, grab the pen and the paper. Write the best reason you have for standing there. Okay, you got it? Yeah. Guess his reason.
I would guess that, you said first trimester, probably that the child in the womb isn't fully developed, perhaps that it's just a clump of cells. So it's not morally equivalent to murdering a baby outside the womb or later.
Is that sufficient for you to say yes?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Guess hers.
That the fetus is a person to become, and it's just as much harm to kill a person to become as it is to kill a person. If she doesn't believe it's already a person, at the very least she believes it's a person to become, and that's equal to killing a person.
Is that sufficient to say yes?
More or less, yes.
Okay, so can you read him what you have?
Yes. I said, all humans are created in God's image. It is morally wrong to murder imagers of God. Babies in the womb are humans. Abortion murders babies in the womb. Therefore, abortion is wrong.
Okay. You want to guess what his is?
I guess it might be up to the woman has a right to choose what she does with her own body. That would be my guess.
Is that correct? Sufficient for you to say yes?
Yes.
Okay, can you read her, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote that the state does not have the authority to demand the super obligatory duty to nurture a fetus that has no contract with the mother.
Okay, you can put that down. Okay. Not do you agree, but do you understand their reasons?
I believe so.
Okay. What is the reason that she is on the strongly disagree?
I believe the reason she's on the strongly disagree is, she objects to abortion on religious grounds and to snuffing out the life of a human being, whether that be born or unborn.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is the reason this gentleman is over on the strongly agree?
He believes that the right to abortion is fundamental and that the state should not have control over a person's body by forcing them to care for an unborn child.
Is that correct?
For the first trimester, yes.
Okay. Now the question is, I want to know from you what it would take to change your mind to move one Matt to the slightly agree. And I want you to ask him, tell him what it would take to change your mind, and then ask him if he can furnish what you're looking for.
In order to change my mind, I think that it would be necessary to convince me that a woman's right to choose whether she wants a child outweighs the rights of the unborn child.
Okay. Do you understand the claim?
Absolutely.
Is that a reasonable thing that a reasonable person would ask?
Yes.
Okay. What is your response?
My response is that the state does not have the authority to demand that citizens adopt children who need homes, need to be fed, and need welfare.
Does that answer your question? Is it sufficient for you to move to slightly agree?
I believe it answers my question, but I do want to ask, this is kind of a separate question, but do you believe that consenting to intercourse also means consenting to having a child?
I do not. I believe that we consent to engage in risky behavior without consenting to engage in the consequence. It's the maxim underlying your action. You consent to have vaginal sex for pleasure. You took precautions possibly, and if that condom breaks, you in no way consented to having the child. And obviously but I think like that, we'll start there and work stronger cases later.
Okay, pause on that. We're going to go to her in a second. Was anything he said sufficient to move you to slightly agree?
I think I want to hear the other side first.
Okay. Same thing. He's going to ask you, he's going to tell you what it would take to change your mind. I'm going to ask you if that's a reasonable thing, and then you see if you can furnish that to him.
I'd like to know why, even I assume from the moment of conception, a fetus can be considered a child with the same moral weight as a living human being of adult age.
Is that a reasonable question?
Yes.
Okay. What is the response?
I think if we do not draw the line at humanity, the fact that the fetus in the womb is a human, I think that collapses the foundation we have for arguing against things like genocide, racism, murder, and other contexts.
Do you want a follow-up question?
Yes. So we can say that we need to draw the line somewhere, essentially, in order to kind of preserve our moral integrity for the life of a human being. And if we don't draw the line at conception, then you believe it undermines that, if that's correct?
That is correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So let me ask, why is it that drawing the line at birth would be worse than drawing the line at conception?
Because I think if you don't draw the line at conception, you're either reducing it to its size, its level of development, its environment, or its degree of dependence. And I think you could apply that to humans outside of the womb as well.
Did you understand that response? Not agree, but understand.
I did understand it, yes.
Is it sufficient for you to move to the slightly disagree? Is any argument that you heard here persuasive?
I'd like to ask a couple more questions.
Please do. It's a free Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
All right, so from my understanding, your argument has been that we need to draw the line at conception because you believe that every human being should be, I guess, equal, and you believe that if we say because a child is underdeveloped or has not developed a brain or anything like that, that shouldn't necessarily undermine the moral weight.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So do you believe that all human beings are equal?
Yes.
Do you believe that all human beings are equal?
Morally, yes.
Okay, so we've established that all human beings are equal then. So I guess the real debate here is what qualifies as a human being.
Okay, and pause that thought. Has anybody said anything to move you so far?
No.
Okay, I'm going to swap you guys out. So you two, give him a hand. Give him a hand. Give me a go to the who's strongly disagreeing and who's strongly agreeing. Tell him your best argument. You get only one.
I don't see where in the Constitution it grants any rights to an unborn person.
Not do you agree, but do you understand?
Yes.
Tell him, the man on neutral, your best argument for why you're standing on the strongly disagree.
Yeah, so the person before me argued that there should be a line drawn somewhere. I would argue that a line shouldn't be drawn at all. And so rather, we would have to accept either that human beings always have moral value, life is always valuable, or conversely, that it never is. And any line drawn at any point in between is completely arbitrary.
Not to agree, but you understand.
Yes.
Would you like to ask either of these gentlemen a question?
Yes. Firstly, you've said that you believe that we should not draw an arbitrary line between what basically counts as a human, morally speaking, or what does not. So do you believe that it is actually, in practical effect, morally equal to abort a 3-day-old fetus or go down the street and murder somebody?
I think that, to give an example, so if you had both the fetus and the person who was murdered drowning, they're both drowning and they're both going to die. The fetus under an abortion would likely be drowning less, but that doesn't make it morally permissible.
What do you mean drowning less?
Yeah, so they're closer to the surface, right? And the other person is deeper.
Oh, you mean like
in the
physically
water.
actually
Yeah,
drowning?
Yeah, with like drowning as an example, right? Like say at conception, there's a lot of natural things that could happen to like keep that thing from being born, right? And so the closer that you get to conception, it seems like a less egregious act, like in our world, right?
The closer you get to
the closer that you get to conception,
okay,
it
got
seems like a less egregious act. They're both equally bad, right? But one has a more like widespread impact. But both are equally bad.
Does that answer your question?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Would you have a question for this gentleman?
Yes. So your argument seemed to be that the right to abortion is not enshrined in the Constitution, if that's correct.
Is that correct?
That a fetus in the first trimester doesn't have any rights enshrined in the Constitution.
Does a fetus in the 3rd trimester or 1 day before birth have any rights according to the Constitution?
According to the Constitution, no.
So is your argument then based on the Constitution alone, or are you supplementing it with something else? Like, would you support abortion in the 3rd trimester because there is no legal right? Or are you just saying that because there is no right to it in the Constitution, therefore it should not be allowed?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'm asking if your argument is purely legal, or if you also want to supplement that with a moral take.
No, mine's purely legal. Purely legal. Yeah.
Let me just, did you?
I understand.
Okay. Give you a comment, and then we're going to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, there are huge disparities in laws, like when you compare different countries, you know. And so I guess, are you recognizing that all government anywhere, like, is just what they say goes, you know? Is there something outside of government that should govern the way that we act? Or
You mean it like is the? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just want to make clear it up for myself. So, is it when something becomes a law? Does it then become moral? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so I guess like your standard, the thing that you were referencing was laws specifically, right? And so that should be our standard for everything, just simply whether or not it is a law or not.
The law should be a standard for whether something's legal. Yeah.
By definition.
By definition, yeah.
Okay. New question. What would it take to change your mind to move one Matt to the disagree? What evidence or argument could he provide you with that would be sufficient to calibrate your confidence to the disagree?
Is there an opportunity to come back?
Yeah, of course.
Can I put a little more thought into it?
Yeah, 100%. It's always a good answer. Same question about abortion being legal in the first trimester. What evidence or argument would you have to hear specifically from him, but you may also ask him, if you would like, that's sufficient to move you, one, Matt, for you to calibrate your confidence to the agree?
Maybe what other rights, if any, does a fetus have besides life? So, like, are there other rights that are given to all of us that fetus is also entitled to?
Like a driver's license.
Yeah, can he like have a lawyer or something? Like stuff like that.
Yeah. I would think that a fetus is entitled to tons of other things.
Give him an example.
Yeah. So, a fetus is entitled to a right to life. I think it would be entitled to nourishment and other things like that. You wouldn't be able to withhold other necessities from the fetus, which would be like a mother's womb or things like that, to allow the fetus to grow and develop.
You asked him a question. Do you understand his answer?
I understand his answer. Yeah.
Is his answer sufficient to move you to agree?
No, he just described necessities for life.
So what would he have to give you to move?
Just any other, like, does a fetus have a right to free speech? Can
That would be
like,
impressive.
yeah,
That would really
things like
be
that.
something.
Anything besides the right to life that is being provided by the mother who does have rights.
Is that a reasonable thing to ask?
Yeah. Okay. I guess like a better way to say it would be, just as other citizens have rights, the fetus would have protection under the law from having things that are deemed as impermissible committed against it, right? So the fetus would also have protection from, if there was a way to even like rob a fetus, right? Or a way to murder a fetus, like from an outside force, right? Someone breaks and enters.
You mean like if you robbed it of the mother of Anderson of the fluid, or like what? Like
Yeah. So I mean,
no, I'm totally serious. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fetus should be seen as having a right to not have crimes committed against it. You could take other crimes, right?
More so than people who are not fetuses.
No, on the same level as people who are not fetuses.
On the same level.
Yeah. So under law, if someone were to like assault me, I have certain rights to take them to court and things like that. And so the fetus would have the same rights.
Okay.
You knew I was coming to. You know how the game is played. Go ahead.
Right. So you've described that fetuses should have the same rights as all the rest of us because they're human as well. Does that mean that a woman who aborts her child should be prosecuted for first-degree murder?
I wouldn't be completely against that. No.
Okay. We're going to come back to that.
What would it take to change your mind to move you, one, Matt, to the disagree?
What would that gentleman on the strongly agree have to tell you? What would you have to learn? What would you have to find out? What evidence could he provide? What argument could he furnish you with?
Yeah, that it would be biblically permissible to commit abortion.
Is that reasonable?
No, because of the First Amendment.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm trying to understand this. For you, the First Amendment trumps a holy book.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have the belief that we should give to Caesar what is Caesar's, right? And so insofar as it does not force us to commit a sin, we should listen to and comply to all the government's laws as much as we can. But once it crosses the line of then forcing us to do something that God ordained as impermissible, then the law does not hold.
Okay, everybody go back to the neutral. If there were no God, abortion would be morally acceptable. Move. If there were no God, abortion would be morally acceptable. Okay, why are you, in one sentence, why are you there?
I think when it becomes a moral question, I begin to disagree.
Okay. One sentence, why are you there?
I don't believe that the morality of abortion can be explained by just religious followings.
One sentence, why are you there?
I think that morality as a whole is explained by what God has set forth in the Bible. And so when that foundation is pulled out,
Okay.
it falls.
Okay. New claim. If the law were changed and women who received abortions could be prosecuted for first-degree murder, they should be. Move. Okay, tell us why you don't know.
I guess I'm split between if someone breaks the law, they should be held accountable. And it's our job to make sure we have just laws. But then it's also our job in making sure we have just laws to enforce those laws or not.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is tricky, so you got to listen. A woman receives an abortion in the first trimester. The law should be changed to allow prosecutors to prosecute a woman who receives an abortion in the first trimester. Move. The law should be changed that allows prosecutors to prosecute women who get an abortion in the second trimester for first-degree murder. Move. The laws should be changed to allow prosecutors to prosecute a woman who gets an abortion in the third trimester. Move. The laws should be changed to allow prosecutors to prosecute a woman for first-degree murder if she gets an abortion in the last day of her pregnancy. Move. The laws should be changed that allow prosecutors to prosecute a woman who gets a post-birth aborts her baby at day 1. Move. In other words, she kills the baby at 1 day. Okay, so everybody is on the strongly agree. So now we're going to play a game. Why don't you flip that? Call it in the air.
Okay.
Good enough. Okay, it's heads. So we go to you. You can decide which of those two is going to go to the strongly disagree. Who is going to argue that a baby, once it's born for 1 day, the mother has like a grace period to kill it? Which of those are you going to send over there for that unenviable task? Or yourself. You can also send yourself over there.
I'll go over there.
Oh, wow. What an amazing, it's impressive. Give it to him.
There is essentially no difference between a baby on the day of its birth versus the day before.
Why?
Because developmentally speaking, birth does not cause any, I guess, acceleration in growth. I mean, if you compared physically speaking two babies and you didn't know if they were born or if they were still in the womb and you were asked to pick out between them, I doubt you'd be able to. I don't see why we should morally treat the two differently. So why have either of them banned?
You want to comment on that?
And then I'm coming to you.
Yeah, I feel like if you told a woman sitting in the maternity ward right now that the baby she just had is the same as the one that was in her stomach, or I guess uterus, like a few hours ago, I think she would fervently disagree. Also, there's like a tube coming out of you, is there not? Is it not? I'm not a biologist, I don't know. Yeah,
but you know what a woman is.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. So, like I said at the beginning, I think drawing a line anywhere is just an arbitrary point. Either we are always valuable or we never are. And so I guess you could hold that point if you believed that we were never valuable. But I think if you believe that we have any value at all, then if the law would allow it, we would always prosecute.
God. All right, give him a hand. Give him a hand. Hey, did you know only half of you watching are subscribed? If you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button to keep the videos coming. Thanks.